Everybody, welcome back to the podcast. We have, I guess, like almost a little bit of like a part two, Jen, I feel like, from when I came on yours. And we're just going to carry on with the conversation, but with a little bit of a different lens. And now Jen gets to bring all of her advice to the table of being a mum of four, running two companies. Like, I'm like, yes, give me the goods about business and children. I need to know. But just to begin, can you please introduce yourself, your businesses, your beautiful magazine that, for anyone that doesn't know, I wrote for the February edition. So we'll put that link below so you can go and view that.
Yeah.
And then we'll dive in.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for putting on this incredible podcast for a world of women who I believe are going to be served, and they are being served so deeply through your wisdom. And I just appreciate you and what you're doing here. So thank you so much. And to let the audience know a little bit about who I am, my name is Jen Szpigiel. I run two companies. One is Becoming Iconic. It is a 19-year-old mature consulting company where I definitely support women in growing and scaling businesses. I've been doing that for a very long time. How I describe that side of me is I've been growing babies and businesses for the last 19 years. So that Becoming Iconic is very much encompassing motherhood, CEO, leadership, branding, marketing, all of those things. And in 2022, when I lost my social media and had to build from the ground up, someone asked me a question that was really life-changing for me. And she said, well, what is it that you've never done that you would love to do? It's a clean slate. And as soon as she said it, I knew exactly what that was. And it was a magazine. And if you've listened to the podcast, the Iconic podcast with Monica, you know that she was my muse. That was what my first iteration, the first example that I saw of somebody doing something that I really desired to do. So again, thank you so much for that inspiration and being my muse. And I launched the Iconic magazine, which has now grown into this beautiful media company for women founders and leaders and executives to really share our stories of what we're doing out there in the world and our genius and our wisdom and our compassion and the way we get to lead. So it is this platform that I've built for women, and it has taken off. It's wonderful. And then of course, behind all of that, I am a mom of four and have been doing both for a really long time.
I sense a bit of exhaustion in that.
Well, it's funny because I say 19 years and I feel like, am I old? What is it? It sort of makes me feel in two things, duality. It makes me feel very in my wisdom years of being able to
I was
really
going to say
share.
it's wisdom. It's not even old or mature. It's it's wisdom.
It is. And it's how do I have a 20-year-old when I'm still 12? I mean, the math is not mathing, but there's not exhaustion. There's a massive journey and a lot of overcoming that is attached to those 19 years for sure.
Wow. Yeah. And I can't wait to get into it all today because I was listening to some of your Instagram stories before we got on, and just some of the little bits of wisdom that you shared in that, and just we're going to get into this, but I feel like we were saying this before we jumped on, of women need permission, right? And even just what you said about the overcoming of what a reframe, right? Instead of 20 years of motherhood, oh my God, I'm so exhausted, so exhausted, I have no life, blah, blah, blah. It's the overcoming, it's the journeys, it's the stories, but who are we without the journey and the stories and the hurdles and all those sorts of things? So to begin with, can you share what you were sharing on your Instagram story before, when you were just talking about the women that are choosing to not have children and the women that are choosing to have children? There's just this need to constantly prove ourselves and explain why we've chosen something to somebody else, rather than just the honoring. And I know that, we've kind of talked about this before, and we talk about it on the podcast, of just these days, fucking Miss Independent crap and all the feminism. It just makes women feel like we constantly have to prove, when we are doing, something that's typically a bit more old fashioned, or just
Right.
being a stay at home mom. And like, even just that word just. And yeah, so share with us what you were talking about with that client around just like, we don't need to be proving and over explaining ourselves all the time.
Yeah, it was just this morning. I was talking to somebody who has chosen to not have children. And we were just talking about how she feels like she has to constantly share why. Like people challenge that and have even said to her face how selfish of you. And I was just floored. And it brought me back to many years ago when I was touring the world as a keynote speaker. I had this woman walk up to me. I'll never forget this moment. And I made a choice very early on to talk to women in general, not just moms or moms without kids or career women or entrepreneurs. Like, I really want to speak to women as a whole. And so I've always had that in me of never being so niched in or dialed in that I'm not really being available to the diversity of women as a whole. And so she walked up to me after I spoke and she said, I just have to thank you. It's the first time I don't have children, and it's the first time I've ever heard a woman on stage like just sharing what it gets to be like. And I felt accepted. I felt seen. I felt like it was okay for me to stand up into my vision and why, because I thought maybe my why wasn't big enough, because all I hear is moms leaving their corporate careers to be home with their kids, or moms building businesses because they want to provide for their kids. And she said, because I've chosen not to have them, I always thought I wasn't enough. And I also felt like I had all the time, that there's no excuses for me, that I should be successful because I don't have children and my business isn't where I want it to be. So there's this loop I could see her in, and it really floored me in that moment. And I'll never forget it. And I promised myself in that moment that I would always make sure to open the conversation for all. But it also really opened up a curiosity for me of like, how did we get there? How did we get there where a woman feels like she needs to justify, blame, or validate anything in her personal choices other than just soaking in the pleasure of her personal choices? And the same goes for motherhood. We throw our kids under the bus and use them as our excuses.
I just wrote down, how do we use children as excuses? Like how
All the time.
and I am somebody that I've worked really hard, and I always invite clients to do this too, but even before you have a kid, like that's the most important time to do it, is to really like envision your ideal motherhood and know that like that is what it can be like, and envision it, and then work backwards of like what systems need to be in place, what support needs to be in place, whatever, so that can happen. But I just feel like, especially with social media these days, the negativity, it drives me semi up a wall. The negativity, and once you see one of these reels, then your whole thing is just flooded with it. And it's like, how is this actually a thing of just, I think there is a part where it's really beautiful to be able to see the real side of motherhood. But so much of what I'm seeing on social media is just like the complaining and negativity, and I have no life, and this is what you think motherhood will be, but this is what it actually is. And it's just like disheveled women and relationships that are hanging on by a thread. And I'm like, that's by a choice, like to an extent, right? Like obviously there are hard times where you're doing your best, but yeah, how do we use children as excuses?
Oh, okay. So I'm going to riff a little bit on this with your permission.
Yeah.
And I'd love just to share
Yes.
some of my story with this to reiterate my message as well. So
Yeah.
I decided to leave my corporate career that I loved when I had my first daughter, Gracie. I looked at her, and like most women, I felt like I had to choose. I was very young. I wasn't mature. I did not have my own mind, and like I just didn't have the posture of leadership at all in my spirit. And so I thought I had to choose her or I had to choose my career. And she was the obvious choice. When you have a child, I mean, it's an obvious choice. So I chose her and I left my career. And I remember I lost myself completely in being a stay-at-home mom. I had moved to a new city. I didn't know anybody. So I was home alone. I remember driving to the gym. I got a job teaching spin classes because I just needed to get out of the house and like look after myself and have them looked after for a minute of just breathing room. And Gracie from the back seat said, Mommy, where are all the cars going to? And I said, well, they're probably going to work. And this one, like I was just making up and make believe. And she said, no, no, no. All the mummies go to the gym and all the daddies go to work. And it was like that moment, that pause where I thought, there's nothing wrong with that, what she saw and what this was her experience. I went to the gym, her daddy went to work. Nothing wrong with that. But I also felt the call to show my daughter what was possible and to show my daughter who I was made of. And I wasn't at that moment. I was completely just
I feel like that almost triggered your misalignment, right?
right.
Just because it's like, yeah, like you said, like there's nothing wrong with mum going to the gym, dad going to work. But it wasn't like that's what your brain was thinking of, this is wrong. It was like that triggered, wow, I'm not actually living my truth.
That's it. I wasn't living my truth. I was staying home with the kids because I thought that that was the choice to make that made me look like this exceptional mom and selfless mother. But yet I completely lost who I was as a woman, as a human, as a soul and a spirit. And so that was actually the trajectory to going into entrepreneurship, because I started looking for something of like, what can I do where I don't feel and sacrifice? And this is the whole thing with becoming iconic. The whole message behind it is to eradicate the sacrificial living for women where you feel like you have to always choose. And by choosing, you're like eradicating this side of you or this piece of you. And this idea that we can't be great moms and we can't be great in our careers and we can't be great as moms or as wives, I should say. Like, since when and when did we fall into this and buy into this and believe in this? And one of my greatest visions in this lifetime is to actually help women see their capacity, that I really believe we have infinite capacity. We haven't even scratched the surface, but we are still healing, coming up for air from all of these narratives that are expired. They no longer fit. But we're not entirely sure how to get, like our legs are still wobbly because we don't have women who have blazed a trail for us and shown us what's possible. We are the very first generation. I think this is the most spectacular time to be a woman in the world because we are the trailblazers. But that comes with a lot of oopsie-daisies and hiccups, and I would say even some things that we haven't done right in our learning and in our trying to understand what we can hold and what is possible for us. So entrepreneurship really did show me the best of what I call the both worlds. I was able to set goals for myself and achieve and go and create and be in my innovation while also staying present to my children. And it has been for the last 19 years. I really believe it is the best of both worlds. Although we don't want everybody to be an entrepreneur. We need women to be in corporate careers. Not everybody's made for it, and we don't need everybody in it. But I would say...
Yeah, very key thing. Not everybody is made for entrepreneurship.
No,
I feel like all the young people these days, or people thinking like, that's the path to freedom. I'm like, no, not really.
Well, yeah, it's true. Like, what freedom? I don't know. You got to pick your freedom.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's
Yeah,
not
it
made
is.
for everybody. Yeah.
It is. And it's beautiful. And even today, as you know, 3 out of my 4 kids are homesick and I'm here recording a podcast with you. It has been this really stunning life with the great work that I've done publicly behind the scenes. I would let anybody put a camera and watch our lives because it is imperfect. We do, you know, my husband and I have disagreements, or my children trigger me, or whatever it is. It's not perfect, but I would say it is definitely our version of perfection. We are loving, we are adventuresome. My children have been raised with the conversations of lifting others up and vision casting and goal setting and overcoming. Like, they have watched me fall on my knees and crawl at times in entrepreneurship, but they've also watched me crawl and pick myself up over and over and over again. It has created these tenacious, stunning young adults and still young kids. My youngest is 10, but it's been wonderful.
I just want to say, like, what I hear in all of that is, and like, I'm always about just like accepting our humanness. Like, you have just fully accepted the humanness of life rather than going after this perfect image. Like, you allow the imperfection and the learning and the fact that, like, you know, we can have it all, but we can't necessarily have it all at once. And there needs to be flexibility, especially as women, like, in our lives. So thank you. So on that note, something else that you were then sharing on your Instagram story is that whole thing of like not being pulled out of the joy of, I think it was like both sides, and allowing that flexibility. What was it that you were saying around motherhood?
Well, it was the duality of being like, for me, it's entrepreneurship. Maybe for somebody listening, it's your career. whatever that
Yeah.
looks like. And then you have these babies at home, and that holds a lot of duality. And so today it was interesting on my stories. I had written, I wasn't speaking no face to camera, just that, entrepreneurship. I was really grateful today. I was grateful that I got to design my day, that I am able to look after
Mm.
3 children at once. And, I just was really soaking in the choices that I've made and the gratitude that I have for where I am. But the next picture was a picture of my kids on the couch. And so here's what the world, how the world reacted. I found this really fascinating. The one that I'd written about the freedoms, and I'm so grateful, people were like, yeah, this is amazing. Me too. Woo, like this is the best. But then when they saw the
Mm.
behind the scenes, the picture of my kids not feeling well on the couch, they were like, maybe this isn't the best. Oh, yeah, that. Oh, like, so it was, I could see it in them, this duality of joy in our lives, joy for the choices we make, joy for being a mom, joys for our careers. And then yet the challenges that are attached to that of feeling like today I was straddling both worlds and trying to, harmonize working and the things that I needed to get done on top of like 3 kids who felt like they needed something at all times. And so it's
Yeah.
being able to, in your leadership of life, your personal leadership, to be able to hold the both. And in days like this, it's really easy to spiral and be like, oh my gosh, I got stuff to do. I could have gone down that spiral. That's very easy to
Yeah.
do because that's victim mentality and it feels very comfortable.
Uh-huh.
We're comfortable in victim.
Okay, quick interruption, but for a very important reason. We are coming into the thick of summer, and I know that you want to feel amazing in your skin, and you probably also want to look amazing in your skin. There's nothing wrong with wanting to look our hottest and feel our healthiest. So, for those of you that don't know, I have a gut healing class and a skin healing class, and for a very, very limited time, so I hope that you are listening to this episode in real time, like just when it's dropped, it is 30% off both of these classes, these healing classes, or you can bundle them together. Now, the key thing about these healing classes, one for your gut, one for your skin, is they go so much deeper than what food to eat or what skincare to do or anything like that. If you have been holding on to energetic or emotional weight, these are going to help. If you have tried every skincare thing or food thing under the sun for your IBS or your bloating or your acne or your eczema, these are going to help because these are not master classes. They are healing classes. They are a somatic experience. I am taking you through my modalities that I have used with hundreds of women to help them heal their skin issues or heal their gut issues. And I'm walking you through it. You're going to have your own experience. You're going to discover what's underneath your skin issues, your gut issues, and then you're going to clear them with me in these experiences. So if you have been really wanting to maybe do Queen Alchemy because, or the immersion because of, your gut issues or your skin issues, you know that they would help. But for whatever reason, you haven't fully gone into those yet, this could be a really great place to start as well. Obviously, the immersion, Queen Alchemy are like, the Mac Daddy, the bee's knees. But these are components of what we do in those experiences. And I've just bundled them up into a smaller priced container because of how many of you were asking for support on your gut issues and on your skin issues. So I wanted to create something for you for that because I know how debilitating and how like confidence ruining skin issues and gut issues can be. So it's 30% off for a very limited time. Do not miss out on this. I hope that you enjoy it. All the details are on the website page and the link is below.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people live in the past or live in the future. And I feel like especially, a lot of my listeners are high achieving women, go-getters, A-type, and we can have a tendency, and I've really had to work on actually being present in my life. And, you want to definitely be looking at the future in some aspects because otherwise you're not going to go anywhere. But I think a lot of people can just be so focused on the future because they're focused on what they don't have right now. And so it's just kind of like next, next, next. And so even, one thing that I've worked on a lot over the years is seeing the beauty and almost like the art in the messy moments, right? So like when you're talking about this duality, I'm like, there's something joyful though, surely, about your kids on the couch at home all together. Like I have goosebumps, right? But that's a choice to see those moments as beautiful and as almost like a piece of art. How do you feel like, I mean, even how do you stay present in those moments versus jumping straight to like, oh my God, my day's derailed, everything's turned to shit. And you know, seeing the 3 kids at home sick as this big negative thing versus actually there actually is like beauty in it. And there's something that you can be really grateful for in that.
Right. And so 2 things pop up for me is a term I use often is I get to. I get to look after my kids today. It's not I have to look after my kids today, because if I say that, that's immediately what triggers in me is this like, oh my goodness, how am I going to get everything done? Because I have to look after my kids. Where
And it's obligation energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, I chose these babies. I would not choose to have, like, I don't want life without any of them. And so I know that. So it's like, this is my reality and the reality I love. So I get to look after my kids today. And I also get to be an example to the people that I am teaching and who are watching that, you know, it is okay to put down the CEO hat for a day and be in our priorities and care for our children and care for ourselves. It is so important because I don't want to follow a leader where I see her constantly severing ties with those beautiful priorities in order to achieve. That's not a leader I want to follow. I want to follow a leader who is obviously doing big, great things in the world and yet still soaked in her life and doing like I want to know, like, how are you doing all of that? Even as a mom of 4 doing this, I'm still curious around it. So the get to has been huge for me of just reframing and really being in the moment of it's a day, Jen. This is not for a month, you know, God forbid. And the other piece is bringing my kids in. I feel like as women, and this is partially taught an old paradigm, but I feel like we want to separate our worlds. We try really hard to separate our worlds as though that's what's present or giving presence. So what I mean by this is I feel like we want to keep our career over here and our family over here, and they don't ever marry each other or go near each other. And somehow that's providing presence. And I learned that in my situation, or at least in my experience, that was nearly impossible. I was going to be on my phone and my kids were going to hear me. I was nursing babies and coaching clients. Like those things were happening. That was my reality. So the more I tried to separate them, the more out of alignment I was, the more I was almost in this performative persona that did not work. And it made me resentful for either my business or resentful for my kids who needed me. And I didn't want that. So what I learned was to actually bridge those worlds. And presence actually was in me articulating to my family, hey, you know what? I'm in a busy season in the business right now. So I just want you to know why. And I share with my kids, my clients, like they know my clients' names. They know my clients' children's names. And they're bought into what I'm doing because they desire other families to have what we have. And so by incorporating my family more into what it is I'm doing as a career really has helped me be present. So when I'm working, I'm not feeling like, oh, I should be with the kids because they know why I'm working. They know what I'm doing. And same when I'm with the kids, my clients know this is what I want for you too. And so I've removed a lot of that guilty feeling.
Wow. Okay. 2 things from everything that you just shared. One, I feel like this blends itself to part of the conversation we were having of women need to revalue, like doing the more traditional feminine tasks in the house, right? And so like revaluing spending time with your kids, cooking them a meal, like, you know, taking them shopping or whatever it is versus, oh, the value only lies when I'm making money, when I'm executing on my business and just not seeing it as like a trade-off between one or the other, but like both are adding immense value to my life, to their life, to my relationship, blah, blah, blah. And then the second thing is like everything you just said was so expansive. So thank you. Like, I just feel like all the mums to be and the future mums are just going to listen to this episode so far and just be like, wow, what a different perspective of motherhood, right? One of my friends here in Atlanta, we are 2 days apart in terms of our due dates. Oh. We both just got sucked into the Rome energy.
That's amazing.
And yeah, and we often talk about how like it's so nice to have a friend that just has this really like expansive view on motherhood versus, you know, what you see on social media. And I've talked about it with my team, and even like my team has then extended this to, potential clients when they've asked questions like, well, how's Monica going to run the program when she has a newborn? Or how is she going to do this event when she has a newborn? And it's interesting of like exactly what you said of like, wow, we think we have to separate, but what we extend to them is actually the expansion that lies in seeing me run an event as I'm like breastfeeding or dealing with a newborn, or, doing a coaching call and my husband needing to come in because baby needs me. And it shows women, and I'm sure you can attest to this, like we don't need to split the two. Like we're allowed, and I think just so many women feel like they have to, whether it's operating like a man or whether it's as unconscious, I have to prove that I'm good enough and I can't accept like the other woman parts of me. And so it's like, oh, I'm on a meeting, I can't take the baby. Well, why can't you take the baby? Because we think it's unprofessional. But where did we get this fucking idea that it's unprofessional to like nurse our child or something on a meeting? If we're able to still focus on a meeting, nurse the kid. And you know what? In my opinion, if you can't focus on the meeting and the baby needs you, that everyone in the world, and our Europeans are so good at this, should be like, baby comes first. Go deal with the baby. We'll jump back on in 15 minutes. And I just think that having that, and so I'm excited for when baby comes and later in the year to be able to actually show women that are running their own businesses or have their own career, like a new way, right? Of you, just to your point, like you don't need to separate the two.
No.
Actually, you can blend them both together.
Yeah. And I did just that. Just, like I lived that. My husband would take the baby when I was doing events, and he would just give me a little text. I would have my phone near, and he would say like, she needs to nurse. And so but I opened it up as an expectation that, my baby is newborn and there might be an opportunity that I need to take to nurse her. And I never had a woman be like, oh, I can't believe it, I'm leaving, I want my money
because
back.
if a woman did, I'd be like, bitch, you need to like take a moment to yourself, because that is shame on you for saying that out loud.
Yes. And absolutely. Yeah. And if you don't mind me going back to using our kids as an excuse, I have a really potent perspective. It's not popular. And so if it agitates...
We love that on this podcast.
Okay, perfect. So if I agitate you right now, I'd just love you to sit with the agitation of the why. So I remember in myself, in my motherhood, making a decision. And I remember actually having this vision of my children being older and around the table, because there were times where I really wanted to stop doing what I was doing because I felt stretched, or maybe I'm not spending enough time, or, is this worth it? We all have those moments. And I was having one of those moments, and I was contemplating burning it all down and what would that look like? And I remember kind of looking in the future and thinking, what would I say to them if we're around the dinner table and they're older and they go, hey, Mom, whatever happened to that business you were doing becoming iconic, or Iconic magazine? And me looking across the table and saying to them, well, I quit because of you.
Like that. Ooh. Yeah.
How could we possibly throw our kids under the bus, put that upon them, have that guilt placed upon them that I didn't do what was meant for me because of you? That is none of their business. And that is not for them to hold. And when I had that vision, and my heart pitter patters even when I still say it, when I had that vision, there was such a level of responsibility to not allow my children to be the excuse of why I wasn't going to have in my life. And as a matter of fact, I was going to have them be the why of who I was becoming, what I was doing, and what I was being able to receive. And it's very important. We often use our very reasons why as our biggest excuses, but I challenge women who either have children, desire children, are pregnant and about to have a child, please do not stop being who you're meant to be. Stop the business you're meant to lead or the career that you're meant to scale because you have a child. It is not fair to them to hold that for you. And so let them be the reason you keep going.
Oh, that was just like, thank you. That was so great. I think well, one thing, obviously, I think that there is probably, and maybe you can agree with this or disagree, is of course there's a line, right, where for some mothers they might actually be like, you know what, this business is no longer in alignment,
Right.
and I fully want to be a mother. But that's not then going to come with any guilt. It's actually going to be like, if the kid asks you, oh, what happened to that business, it would be almost excitement of like, it was great whilst I had it, and then I had you and I realized I wanted other things, and that's going to be a completely different energy. But going back to what you said, I can't tell you how many clients, and so, you know, we learn from our mothers of what not to then do when we become mothers, of wounds that women get that actually then inhibits them energetically. It creates this big energetic block for them to be able to fall pregnant, around guilt that has been placed on them because their mother did not get to have the life she wanted. And there's this energetic or unconscious kind of like guilt basically put on them. And it's not to say that the mother always was aware of the guilt, but it's just very much to like recognize, to your point, that it can create a massive wound with your children and within yourself when you completely let go of a part of your life that you actually didn't want to let go of. And you wear this kind of like sacrifice as a badge of honor, but deep down it's creating resentment. Like when you have that resentment towards a child, that then later in life creates that whole jealousy dynamic, which I'm seeing a lot more these days, because women are actually like, no, I can have a job and I can do this and I can do that. And what's happening now is that their mothers are having jealousy towards them, you know, and they're not trying to be like horrible people, but they're having jealousy towards them because it's like, I wish that I did that when I was a mother. I wish I didn't just give up all of the things that I could have tried when I was a mother.
So true. And thank you for reiterating that. And I do believe too that our children, what makes them feel loved and connected to their mothers is us being the fullest version of ourselves. They want that for us. Our kids want to see who we are, especially as they age and start to see us as human beings, not just mom. You know, their greatest desire is like to champion us and to see that we went after things. And if we failed, we picked ourselves up and did it again. Like that's ultimately what our kids want, because why? We're aligned, we're joyful, we're happy, we're fulfilled. And that is what creates a great mom, because if we're not fulfilled, we are obviously showing up in our family with those underlying hums of resentment, regret, I wish I had, shoulds, and that's not the best version for our kids.
No, it's absolutely not. And then that gets passed on to them when we get like angry and we, you know, get triggered by something and whatnot, it all comes out. I want to quickly circle back to something that we spoke about at the beginning. And then I've got a few questions to ask you, Jen. This has been so good. So in the beginning, you were talking about, you know, how you, back in your days when you were doing more speaking and everything, you know, this woman came up to you that didn't have kids, blah, blah, blah. And we were just talking about, you know, how sometimes women can really pigeonhole themselves, or they only surround themselves with other women that are having children, right? And I was having this conversation in one of my programs yesterday, and I think I want to hear your thoughts on it, but we don't have the village anymore these days, right? And I was actually talking, funnily enough, to my housekeeper about this. And because you know what she told me, which was just like, oh my God, this is so sad. She was telling me how, because I was telling her about my book and what I do, because she was just asking about my job. And she was like, I have this client that will never let me be at home when her kids get home from school because, and she works and is a mum, and like not the housekeeper, the client, but she never wants her kids to know that she has help. And I was just like, that is so fucked up. I know your face. That is so fucked up to put that imprinting on your children, because that is now their expectation of themselves. If I have to keep a clean house, made beds, fresh laundry, you know, because when Laura comes, she does a lot. Like I'm so grateful when she comes, because I'm like, wow, and now I have clean underwear every time I open my drawer. Like it's been fucking amazing. Anyway. And I'm like, it's sad that women feel this need to obviously be able to like hide their help because they have to do it all themselves. But separate to that, we were talking about the importance of the village and whatnot. And I was saying yesterday to the ladies in this program how even though there's some of you that are younger and some that are older and some that are mothers and business owners and not, every single person can learn something from another woman, even if the woman that is sharing some advice is 20 years older than you and has 3 kids, and you're 22 years old and figuring out your career, we need to revalue the wisdom that different women in different stages of life offer. Even the 50-year-old woman in the program could actually get some kind of ignition or spark or, little nugget from the 22-year-old that mentions something, rather than thinking, oh, we can only get value off the women that are the exact same as us. I think, no, you're limiting the value that you can get for yourself in your life. And there is so much inspiration that lies in women that are so different to you. So even if you're a mother listening to this, there is inspiration in the women that are choosing to be child-free, for example, and maybe they can't connect with you when it comes to motherhood, but there's these bits that they do in their life that could activate you to remember things that you need to implement in your life.
Mm-hmm. Oh, such a good point. And that to me actually goes across so many areas in our life: motherhood,
Yes.
business, health, relationships, money, fashion. Like I feel like as women, if we walked through this world and we walked through and looked at everybody. Well, here, let me go backwards. I feel like it's really easy to find the dirt on anybody. That's easy. That's what most people do. It is rare and it is stunning in this life to be the person that seeks the gold, even when it's hard to find, because there are going to be people where it's like, you're going to have to dig for the gold. It's difficult.
Yeah.
But if you could walk through this world knowing every single person that you have the honor, which is first of all, the truth, the honor of crossing paths with, to realize they have a gift to give you, whatever that is. Maybe it is the way they style their hair. You're like, oh, I love how long and beautiful her blonde hair is. Yeah. Maybe it is the way she's talking to her child. Maybe it's the way she's launching a new business program. Maybe it's the way she shows up in a corporate boardroom. If we could only look at those as gifts and honors within our lives, how much richer it would be. Most of us have been trained, and we know this, and I know you teach this, so I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but most of us have been trained where that's in some way, shape, or form a threat. Jealousy arises, comparison arises. It's our first sort of initial reaction. I would love us to be much better and much more aware and much more intentional about walking this earth, seeking the gold in others. And when we do that, you know what's going to happen is people are going to seek the gold in us. And it's literally an exchange of a smile. I talk a lot about this, of like the ways we can impact the world without having it to be an exchange or an investment. It's smiling. It's when a woman has a child in the grocery store and the child's having a meltdown, rather than looking and being shy, it's looking at her and going, it's okay. This too shall pass. Like, the honoring of one another is what will bring back that village and that feeling. We have to be the one that sparks that. We can't sit back and wait for that to come to us. We have to move forward in this world to be the difference maker, to be the spark of the village. And that truly is by looking at every individual for the gift that they have to give you, because even some of the worst people on this planet, it's hard to say, it's hard to wrap our minds around, but they still have something in them they can offer us, whether it be wisdom, what we don't want to do, right? The wisdom of like, I don't want to be like that.
Yeah,
right?
but it's true. It's so true. So wow, thank you for that. So, okay, what is one non-negotiable for you when it comes to integrating motherhood and business?
To just let them play together. Just that's a non-negotiable. I don't know any other way to do it effectively and joyfully. So my non-negotiable is that they get to mix and be, and it works really well.
Oh, wow. I want to kind of just go a little bit in a slightly different direction, because I feel like you gave such vulnerability and permission for women to just like have this conversation around being the breadwinner when I was on your podcast. And so I would love to just kind of touch on that a little bit in terms of, obviously you are the breadwinner. For anyone that didn't listen to the episode, you're the breadwinner. You chose to be the breadwinner, and that's, you've had your own journey with that. But what would you say to women who feel stuck between I want financial success. I want to have this amazing career, whether it's entrepreneurship or working for somebody else, but fearing what that will do to their relationship. You know, we've talked about motherhood a lot, so let's just park that one. But
Right.
the fear of what will it do to their relationship, especially when you are juggling. I mean, you're obviously doing it, business, your romantic relationship, your friendships, like God, throw them in there. And then also your children. What do you want to say to those women who just feel stuck between how can I do both?
That I understand. I really do understand that fear. When I went through a divorce at the height of when I scaled one of my first businesses, I scaled a wellness brand to 8 figures. And as I was scaling that, I went through a divorce. And I'll never forget somebody that I was coaching and mentoring coming up to me and saying, well, I just don't think I want the success that you have because I don't want my marriage to fail. And I remember feeling like such a failure. It broke my heart and spirit. I was also angry that a woman would use me in my situation as her excuse. There was so many negative emotions wrapped around that did give me a lot of fears. It implanted some fears in my heart of worrying about being highly successful and being able to hold a relationship. Now, I do want everybody listening, it's not because of the success that marriage ended, okay? So that's just to fill everybody in. It's not what happened, but when you are successful, it's really easy for people to judge from the outside and
And also
assume,
for you to even judge that for yourself, like
right?
you to assume. Like I had to do all that programming, right? Of like I like working a lot, loving my job, making a lot of money, like that won't lead to, we spoke about this of like on your podcast, so everybody go listen, of just that
Yeah.
women think these days I have to choose between success or love. You don't.
No, you don't. And you taught me on that podcast something that I literally have carried with me since that I needed to hear and I hadn't heard up until that moment is like we get to change our minds. See, for the last 11 years, my husband being home and caring for our children, being hands on while I was building the business made a lot of sense. It really, really worked. And then something shifted in me. It shifted where all of a sudden the responsibility just felt really heavy. I just felt a little fatigued. It wasn't that my business was changing. As a matter of fact, my business continues to grow. So it wasn't the business, it was just the responsibility as a woman that I was just getting a little fatigued in. And so we're in the transition phase. So what I say to women often, because I am one of the first women, just because I've been doing this for so long, that people look at as this example is we have to be careful if this is a goal of yours to succeed, be the breadwinner, of how we honor our partner in this, because I was part of the crew that said let's retire our husbands. I'm not proud of that. At the time, it was the marketing thing. You said that, you did that, you were the pinnacle of success. I did it, but I completely emasculated him, retiring him. I remember him being like, you didn't retire me. We made a choice for me to come home with the kids. Like, stop telling people that. But I was in my ego. I was using that as, a marketing tactic. Truthfully, I'm just being very honest. Like
Yeah.
it was. And I really regret the way I handled that. What I do believe is we get to give our partners who we deeply love choice. Go be successful, go build that big business, be the breadwinner, not so you can be in control over, but instead that you pass on the ability for the partner that you've chosen and you love to spread his wings or her wings and do everything that they thought possible for themselves. What a gift, what a level of abundance. And I wish I had done that better. So don't fear the success. Pay really close attention to the sneaky ego, who you're becoming, and do a lot of work on humbling yourself along the way.
For those of you that want to spice up your love life, if you have not listened or watched, you could listen or you could watch it, to my free masterclass on how to have him lead you. You are missing out and you want to grab that right now. This masterclass is basically guiding you on how to step out of that mothering and fully embrace being his lover. It's 1 hour with me and it's really going to help you to figure out why he's not leading and then what you can do what you can do to support him in stepping into his masculine leadership and claiming you and being that protector that you're really craving him to be. So you can register at the link below. in the podcast notes. And this is for you if you are dating or in a relationship and you're wanting to feel wanted by him. You do not want to be nagging him anymore. You want to feel protected and provided for. You want to feel that soul nourishing juiciness that comes from a man that is just claiming you, leading you, and having all of that masculine energy. Like if you want to be told, I'm picking you up at 8 p.m. or this is what we're doing, or like get into bed right now, I need to ravish you or take your clothes off. This masterclass is absolutely what you need. And what I'm going to break down for you guys in the masterclass is the difference between men and women and the differences that we need to pay attention to. I'm also going to walk you through the 4 possible causes as to why he's not leading you. And then of course, what you need to do. I'm going to go through the difference between the lover and the mother archetypes. I'm going to walk you through what the feminine actually wants and how to get her needs met, your needs met, if you're a woman listening to this, and then the 3 steps to get him to lead you for good. So if you want the masterclass, click the link below and you can register for free. Let me know your thoughts on it. I've been really, really enjoying doing these masterclasses for you guys. It's a little bit of like a different way to deliver some of this juicy content and having that visual aspect as well. And like a vibey backdrop. You guys know I'm like a sucker for a vibe. So yeah, link is below and let's jump back into the episode. Yeah, I always say, like, even with the money stuff and the breadwinner, like, it's not the money, it's the energy in which you handle the money. It's the energy then in which you handle the success or in which you handle being the breadwinner, how you communicate about it. There's no problem with the success. Men don't have problems with that. It's when you then, like, chop his balls off because you think that you're better than him.
Yes. And I've had those moments, if I'm being honest. I have. So it's not.
Thank you for your honesty.
I have. I have not done it well, but I, again, didn't have anybody to look up to and show me the way. I had to kind of fail forward. But we know better now. So I will say to the listeners, and I know this is right into par of what you would say, Monica, is we know better, we get to do better. And that now, to me, is as a call to action.
Yeah. And, you know, we said this on your podcast and I constantly remind women about this and you said it before of like, we are the first generation of women really that are going through. I mean, some of us, like I'm fortunate in that my husband, Hal, his mom actually was the breadwinner when they were growing up. So he's kind of seen it before, but you know, I've never had a role model. And, you know, even if your mom did make money, I'm going to assume that it wasn't like this open conversation and you learn a lot from it because back then that wasn't really a thing to like talk about it, you know? And so we really are the first generation of women that are having this success, that are trying to juggle it all. And so we have to give ourselves just that reminder of like, we really are doing our best. And also remember that it's it's the first time men are also going through this. So it's not just we're going through it. It's both of us are going through this. And like, we have to work together on it. Yes. So what are some of your like mistakes that you have made with not being connected to your feminine energy, with running your business and having your babies and all that sort of stuff? And then like, what are you doing now to balance your feminine energy?
So there was a time, and I'm already tearing up, so I cannot tell this story without crying. I've told it 100 times, but it stings still, and it's vulnerable and it's real. I remember when I was building my first business, I was so hungry for success, and I was successful to the point where I had no boundaries. And I'll never forget a time in my career where my children would walk in the house and 9 times out of 10, I would be on the phone because we actually talked to people back then, but I'd be on my phone and I would like shush them when they came in the door from school. I'd be like, shh, because I was on the phone. And this is where I get emotional. I deeply, deeply regret that was their normal greeting by their mom coming home from school almost daily. And that was me being in the masculine of do, more equals more. I got to just keep going. If I don't keep going, it's going to fall apart. A good leader is always on. Like all of this masculine energy and masculine leadership that I'd fallen into, I was doing it for them. And so that was my excuse, but yet I wasn't being the mom. I wasn't dropping in my feminine. I wasn't allowing myself to flow in through my life and business at all. So now that is a non-negotiable for me. There are times that I am on the phone or doing a Zoom call, but I now take that away and have my husband greet them. Like it's a planned thing now, but most of the time I'm at the door with my smile and my hugs and my kisses, especially having another 2. You learn from the first 2. I learned from the first 2. I'm better version of myself for the younger 2. But that's a time that I can't get back. I can't change that. I have never talked to them about it. I don't know if I'm ready for it, but and maybe they won't even remember. Maybe it's not a big deal to them, but it felt like a big deal to me looking back of shushing my kids because I hadn't set the proper boundaries.
Thank you for sharing that. And that also, Jen, just adds to what we were saying before, right? Of women feeling like they can't just be women and run a business. We can't nurse and be on a call.
Right.
We can't have our kids being loud in the background. Like, we don't allow the humanness of it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I've even noticed this for myself, and I'm trying to practice it before baby comes, on my client calls, not being like horrendously stressed if the dogs start barking.
Right.
Right. Because the reality is the Zoom blocks most of it out. So actually I'm hearing it way louder than they do.
Right.
And number two, like, I'm human. Like, we have 4 dogs. Like, that's just part of it. The mailman comes and then they all start going berserk, right? Because they're trying to protect the mail, like protect me from the mailman. Yeah. And it just, like, even with the dogs, I'm like, wow, I realized this like maybe a year ago. I was like, wow, I'm actually just like not even allowing my like humanness on this coaching call or whatever, because I'm thinking that in order for these people to think highly of me, I have to be perfect. Right. And so I started with the dogs, of like training my nervous system to let the dogs, bark and not have like a fucking full blown stress reaction in my body because I'm worried about, people on the Zoom call. Because the reality is like there's going to be a baby crying in the background, or I'm going to have to nurse in the middle of the call. And by being able to, like, even just now as we prepare for everything, by being able to accept that reality, I'm like not stressed about postpartum. And of course there's going to be hurdles thrown in, and,
Yes.
It could be challenging and whatnot. But I just think that I'm already giving myself permission now for the mess and the realness and the humanness. And I feel like for so many women, and you've just alluded to it as well with your beautiful example, we aren't giving ourselves, I feel like this whole conversation has been about permission. We aren't giving ourselves permission to be women running businesses, women having careers, like, real women that are mothers, or that have dogs, or that have other things going on in their lives. And when you think about it, it's like, and why I say that is sometimes I'll think about, like, how would a man be on this call? And not because like, I'm not like, oh, we have to be like men or anything like that, but a man wouldn't have a freak out that the dogs are barking and then, like, deeply thinking, oh my God, they think less of me. Right. He would just probably ignore it because it's like, it doesn't fucking matter. And so that's what makes me go, like, how many of us, and I've had to catch myself in it, like I've shared, are unconsciously thinking, I have to show up, like, I have to work even harder than a man to show that I'm good enough at my job and perfect at my job in order for no one to think less of me. And then even with the phone call thing, like, what a small example, but also a really big thing.
A really big thing.
Right. That's a little thing that has obviously had like a really big impact on you, but also just shows kind of how fucked it is that we think we have to not have our kids giggling in the background.
Right. And everybody knew I was a mom. But that was exactly, like, you nailed it. I just thought to be professional and for people to take me seriously, I couldn't have this background noise. I applaud you, because what I also am noticing is you're setting the expectation for your audience. Like, people listening right now, before baby's even here, you're saying, this is who I am. This is the experience I want to have. And you get to, because this is your company, your brand, and you've earned that and deserve that. And now you're telling your audience, this is what it's going to be like. So I applaud you for that, because you're almost even supporting them in what to expect. And that's going to actually add this like really beautiful connection piece for your audience and you, because they're like, oh, now we're hearing the baby cry like she talked about. And it's quite endearing. And I want to applaud you. Yeah, it's good.
Thank you. I mean, I have been kind of intentional with that because, I've said this to my team and stuff before, and I've probably even said it on a podcast. Like, and if you don't like that, like if you don't want to see sometimes like my boob on a call because I'm nursing, that's fine. Don't be a client of mine. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, you can have, you can, choose whatever you want. But like, that's just not going to work for me because I'm not going to, like you were saying, split myself or feel this constant stress because, you know, like it's unprofessional to be nursing on a call. Actually, it's not fucking unprofessional at all to be doing that, because like who creates what professional is? Like we do. You know, now it's fucking professional to wear like jeans to an office. 10 years ago, you were a thug.
Yeah.
If you did that. Like,
true.
seriously,
It's
like
true.
we are creating what we are perceiving as professional. And I think for all of us women listening, and for any men listening, because we have men that listen to the podcast too, like cheering your women on with this, but for all the women listening, like you said at the beginning, we are the trailblazers. Like it is our responsibility to bring the kid to the call, to allow the kids to be screaming in the background, to not be comparing ourselves to other mothers, to change our narrative around motherhood.
Yeah. Amen to that. Amen to that.
Wow, this was such an amazing conversation. Jen, is there anything else that you feel like is on your heart that you'd really like to share?
I feel like we don't need permission. We do sometimes need the invitation. And I feel like Monica and I are great examples of this. Is like, I feel like I just want to say to her listening right now is like, go do it. Don't just listen to this and be like, wow, that was so inspiring. You know, we can do that. That's very like the cult of average would do that and listen to this. And that's really inspiring. Maybe for a day or two, just feel like I'm going to let my worlds blend. I would say like, let this activate something in you and go do it. Go be all you're meant to be. You are not hurting your family. You are not hurting your children. The only hurt that can happen is the hurt to you, the betrayal to you by holding yourself back for fear that your kids are going to be so happy. Your kids are going to have the most stunning life. My children have traveled the world. My children have had me at their bedside every time they're sick. My children have had me tuck them in. My children have watched me pack my bags and go and speak to women across the globe. Like it is the most stunning life that you can offer them. So don't be shy in going all in for yourself because the benefit really is quite rich.
Wow, thank you so much. Yeah, there's so many flavors of like who we are as women and what we want to do with our lives. But whatever that looks like, whether that is being, you know, whether it's fully owning that you want to be a stay-at-home mom, whether you want to, you know, have a side hustle and I'd love to make, you know, $50,000 a year to add to the family, but be able to spend the rest of the time with the kids. Like, can you own that rather than constantly thinking you need to do something else because, you know, that's going to make you a better person, or not doing this will make you a better person, and that kind of thing.
Right. And waiting for them to age as though I'll wait till they get older. Bigger kids, bigger problems. I am so glad
Ooh, let me remember that.
Yeah.
Bigger kids,
bigger
bigger
problems.
problems.
It's just the truth. My teenagers need me more than they've ever needed me. And I think that's also something, a misconception that women have of like, I'll wait till they grow. It's just they need you more and more and more. So you're not going to wait for a specific age. There is no perfect age, as a matter of fact. Again, it's just doing it. It's trialing it. It's taking one step. You don't have to blow everything up to make your dreams come true. It's just pursuing that version of yourself every single day.
Oh my goodness. This was so nourishing, so wholesome, like so good for the nervous system. Thank you so much, Jen, for being here. Everybody, please make sure that you tag us both, share the episode, text it to your girlfriends. We'll have all of Jen's links below so you can check everything out and just click the links. And make sure that you also go over and listen to her podcast and the episode I did with her, because that was also full of just more juicy nuggets. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Monica.